Attention denizens of planet Earth.
Broadcasting from Carbondale in Southern Illinois' premier comic shop. And now your host, superlative shaman of comic book knowledge, Dan Brown. Flash the match signal in case of emergency for your host with the most on his mind, Matt Morton. Watch out, criminals. There's nothing funny to him about truth, justice, and the American way. It's Commander Harris himself, Scott Reed. And tuning in from the far reaches of no man's land, the mad scientist dream leader, Mike Ho. This is Campus Comics Cast.
Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Campus Comics Cast. We are recording on Christmas Eve, which would make us, as Clark Griswold says, the jolliest bunch of excited in the house. And Scott's going to bleep that, but that's all right. I already had that bullet chambered.
That word's in the Bible.
Yeah, I think it is. That's Scott's standard.
Not the
That's
H
Scott's standard.
I was watching Parks and Rec the other day, and the hole is what they bleep on that one.
I don't know. I believe there's yea, verily, he worked hole. Isn't that in there? I think it was.
I got to take notes now.
He's like, mark the times Matt said it twice. I'm going to whisper it later and just see if anybody notices. All right, so we are, like I said, recording on Christmas Eve because that is dedication. And we do have a special guest with us today. Actually, not so long ago. We're just here, but Mike Atchison is back with us.
Now I'm starting to think that when you say special, it means something completely different.
Well, you're not normally on it every single
We
time.
have an abnormal guest on today.
No. I mean, I always feel a little weird referring to a special guest, given that you were, on all of them for a little bit there.
Yeah.
So I think you've probably been on more of them than I have. But you're not on the regular
I
routine
feel special.
anymore.
Let's just put it
You
that way.
should. You should. We're glad to have you. As usual, joining us is
Dan Brown
and
Scott Reed.
and I'm Matt Martin as usual. Okay, so we got a short list of things, and we sorted these out by how much yelling there might be involved in it. So we're going to start with a fairly mild topic. We're going to talk about the Wonder Woman trailer real quick. And then we're going to talk about Doomsday Clock 12 and how that ended. And then we're going to talk about Rise of Skywalker, which will be, I'm sure, hot takes being fired left and right. And there's already been some yelling before the podcast. And then we're going to end with a favorite Christmas comic book story. And that'll do it. All right. So Wonder Woman trailer. Who wants to start talking?
Who wants to go?
I really liked it. We haven't gotten anything for really yet for it, and
Kind of shocking, right?
yeah, because it was supposed to be out around now, like last month.
Did you see that it's done
Yeah,
6 months early?
Yeah, that's why, because they pushed it back.
Right, but I'm saying,
You
like,
know.
it could have been released sooner.
Oh, for sure. Yeah,
So-
it's a tentpole kind of thing. It's a scheduling thing. I don't think it speaks to the quality. I don't think there were
No,
problems with the movie like you
I don't
usually
either.
see anymore.
But I think they just gave themselves more time for reshoots than it turned out they probably
Yeah,
needed.
because Patty Jenkins, the director, was talking about she's able to tweak things that you normally wouldn't have time to on a movie.
What was the reason for the rescheduling?
I'm going to think it's Joker. I think they wanted to
Didn't
get
want them
Joker out.
back-to-back.
They wanted to get Joker out for Oscar season.
Yeah. Well, and they also already had Birds of Prey set too, and I think the Marvel schedule of not jamming your movies up, kind of pacing them out a little bit, is really smart. So I don't blame them at all for wanting to pace out their DC movies.
Yeah.
I think it
over the
was
next few
Justice
years.
League. I think Justice League was so poorly received that
Probably
they
did.
they
Right,
just
hell.
wanted to
Yeah,
basically
and
let-
break it up with
yeah.
Joker, with whatever this
Build some momentum
Birds of
again.
Prey,
I'm not gonna lie, I can't remember if Justice League came out before or after Wonder Woman because I didn't see Justice League in the theater. So I'm like, did it? I don't remember. I saw Wonder Woman. I have yet to this day to actually watch Justice League because I've made it. My wife and I have a 20-minute rule on movies, and we didn't even make it to our 20-minute rule before we killed it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, she gave up real early, and I was not committed enough to watch this by myself. I do have it. It's on my Apple TV movies. I could click it anytime I want on a random Saturday, and I do look at it and think, I should watch Justice League today. And then I think, no, I like myself. I'm not going to do that.
And you know how I am. I'm going to defend DC, but I just there were so many cringes and the whole CGIing, the mustache out of Henry Cavill. Not to get off on the Justice League here, but man, if I was
So here's
very
your Justice
disappointed-
League review.
Yeah. So anyway,
Timely.
moving on. I think your theory is right. As is Dan. You're right. I think that moving it back to June is a good idea, and
for sure.
I agree with you. I love the trailer.
So we see Steve Trevor showing up again.
Yeah, so I guess we should say spoilers, right?
Yeah, spoilers.
Because,
spoilers for a trailer.
Well, that's the thing is there are people who don't watch spoilers anymore. I saw somebody complaining on Matt's Facebook
Yeah, I'm not
page.
sure if he was joking or
okay,
not.
yeah. So.
He didn't put anything, but somebody
If
put
you're not,
on my
if you're
Facebook.
not watching trailers, you're not listening to the podcast.
If you don't want to be spoiled, you can't get on social media.
Yeah.
So just accept that. So there you go.
I did see somebody on because I'm a Disney fanboy. I did see somebody in a Disney group say, sorry, it's so fantastically absurd. They said, "I'm waiting to see Rise of Skywalker until it comes to Disney Plus. No spoilers, please." And I was like, "Good luck, idiot."
Yeah.
That's like the people that don't get Disney Plus for like 8 more weeks or whatever.
Right.
Don't
No,
want
no,
Mandalorian
when
spoilers.
Mandalorian first dropped,
Yeah.
somebody on another Disney group said, "The UK didn't get it until March, you guys. Hold the spoilers until then." Yeah,
Hold your
I'm
breath
gonna
on
wait.
that one.
Yeah, you have to be very disciplined if you want to wait
Yeah.
very long. And I think it is fair to try to respect people by announcing, like Scott always does, that there will be some spoilers, or maybe it'll be spoiler heavy, or maybe it'll be spoiler light, whatever. The death of Alfred definitely threw me for a loop because
Sorry.
that was the one and I was here.
Well, the other thing is the death of Alfred shouldn't have been a spoiler because it was originally intended to not be real, but then it got received fairly well, and they were like, no, screw it. Go ahead and let
You
it
could have
run.
salvaged that by saying, no, I was talking about the one in the 60s.
There were so many ways to undo it, too, right? Like, you have Lazarus Pits. That's the easiest answer. But also, wasn't him is an easy answer.
Look at how many months Bruce Wayne spent bringing back Damien. Yeah. But he's just cool with Alfred being dead.
I know. Look, man, I used to argue this when I worked here, that I didn't mind Barbara in the wheelchair. I'm not like saying there should be no wheelchair characters or something, but it doesn't make any sense.
Right.
Bruce got his back broken, and he's fine. He's up and running around.
Yeah.
Like, they just kept Barbara in the wheelchair to keep a character in a wheelchair. And again, I have no problem with representation. I actually think that's very noble and admirable, but it stretches the plausibility of even a superhero universe. They're like, well, tough luck, Babs.
Yeah, true. But
Everybody else is up and
we'll do it
running
for
around.
somebody else, but not for
Right,
you.
Right.
Yeah.
Oracle made for such a better character.
I agree. I agree.
Gordon
And that's the
than
only
Batgirl.
reason. All I ever wanted was there to be a reason why we can't have done this. So with Alfred,
they
what is the reason we're not bringing Alfred back to life? I don't know. Cuz seems to be the reason.
Back to Barbara real quick. They addressed it in Morrison's JLA run during World War III.
Did they?
I think Steel or Cyborg or someone says something to her about it, and she kind of dismisses
Oh
it.
yeah, I remember she says she did,
know.
but like,
Yeah, but
come
no.
on.
Well, wasn't in the
Really?
first, the
You
New
wouldn't?
52, the first issue, she said, well, I got better.
yeah, basically.
that was how they
experimental
handled it.
surgery
Nanites.
that you
Yeah.
kept thinking they were going to go back and explain, and they never
Nope.
did.
Nope.
Anyway, back to the Wonder Woman.
Because it's
trailer.
a hand wave.
So okay,
swinging on back.
Yeah, so Steve Trevor, why is he back?
Yeah.
He wants to speculate.
Theories,
yeah.
So-
I got my theory. So
Go ahead, and I'll tell
Okay.
you. I will steal mine from another podcast.
Okay,
because
Max
I loved it
Lord
the first time.
makes a clone. That's my theory.
Something to do with the watch is what I mean. That's what I gleaned. I didn't do any research on this. I just watched the trailer twice, and they show the watch that she kept from 1918 or whenever the original movie was set, and then there was the modern watch there was a shot of it right about the time that he shows up, and she realizes it's him. So I don't know. Oh gosh. It just dawned on me. Watchmen. It's Dr. Manhattan who did it.
I took the
There'll be a
watch.
little blue glow somewhere. and you'll be like, oh, no way.
So obnoxious.
I took the watch as just being the thing that he did before he's doing
Yeah.
again.
Yeah.
So it's her proof that it's actually him.
Okay.
It's how
I
I
see.
took the watch, but
It could be, yeah.
Yeah.
That's the only thing that I could think of. That's what I have. Steve Trevor, question mark, watch.
yeah.
Question mark, magic? Question mark.
So I will tell you what I think it probably is and what I really want it to be. It is probably just divine intervention, right? Like, we're literally talking about somebody who deals with gods and stuff.
Okay,
So it's
all right.
probably one of those, at the moment that I was about to die, Zeus scooped me up and he knew you'd need me in the future.
Yeah, and I held
I'm-
on to you for 60-something years.
I'm sure it's probably just that.
So Steve
But
had a return ticket crossing the river Styx.
he's like, just put a pause on the trip, Steve. Hang on. Chill here for a little. On Kevin Smith's Fat Man on Batman, like a year ago, I can't remember the co-host's name, Mark Bernardin, theorized his option was, what if it's Martian Manhunter? And what if Manhunter is shapeshifting into people and he's like, trying to fit in with Earth? What if he read Diana's mind, like a surface level read and sees that, oh, she trusts the Steve Trevor guy and shapeshifts into him without looking deeper to think, oh, he dead. And then it's just Martian Manhunter. And I would love for that to be the introduction of John. That would be awesome. I don't think it's that.
That would be creepy because now he's kissing Wonder Woman and she would not be happy.
Well, it's the movie universe. Batman used guns in it.
But it makes sense.
They throw a lot of things out.
If it's the 1980s and Max Lord and that version of the Justice League, the Giffen didn't tell us.
I would just like him to use the movies to introduce other characters the way the Marvel movies did too, to like set more things up. Just even if you don't intend to go back and make a solo Manhunter movie, just to use the bigger, more high profile releases to introduce the lesser known characters like that.
When you do a good Justice League movie, you can bring them into that thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You just go, oh, here they all are.
Yeah.
They're the Justice League now. Okay.
That's as good as theories I've heard so far, Matt.
Yeah, I would like that.
Dan?
I don't think it's that, but I'd like it.
I really hope it's not the TV show explanation of his kid years later. And I don't think it is. Just because the behavior, it's just like everything I can think of, though, it just doesn't explain the behavior if it's not him out of time.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, why doesn't he know that's a trash can?
That's why I think the watch means timey-wimey.
That kind of thing.
Wibbly-wobbly, timey-wimey.
I mean, there's also the possibility they keep showing the mall that it could be like a rift, the smoke monster opened up, and they just brought him back from the past into the present.
Well, maybe we'll get lucky. We'll see a clip of Mars, of Ares.
Cross company crossover.
Yeah, you can't say Mars because then that would be back to Martian Manhunter. So
true.
Yeah.
Oh man, we got synergy.
Okay, so are we gonna get a Max Lord with sonic powers, or is he just the businessman science guy?
I'm gonna go with businessman.
I hope so. I think Pedro Pascal is fantastic. I've loved him since Game of Thrones when he was Oberyn,
and he's
the Viper.
He's the Mandalorian.
He's the Mandalorian, yeah.
He is. Yeah. Wow. I know he's in one of those other, I think maybe Ozarks, but I haven't seen it. But he's just a great actor, so I'm glad to see him in that role. I
really hope we get a more comic accurate Cheetah. You know, if the effects are done, where's the shots of Kristen Wiig as Cheetah?
It looks like something from Cats.
Maybe that's why they're holding off.
Do you think Kristen Wiig can be intimidating looking enough to actually pull off Cheetah?
I bet
that's one of my
concerns.
concerns.
She can pull off the crazy.
Oh yeah.
Okay.
Sure.
I love this part where have you ever been in love? Oh yeah, me too. Lots of times.
What was that? What was that movie she did?
Despicable Me.
Welcome to Me, or something like that, where she wins the lottery and she's kind of crazy and she lives in the casino. I'm trying to think of the name of that.
I know what you're talking about.
She does good crazy in that one. She
well,
can pull
I'm not
it
talking
off.
about crazy. I'm just talking about physically threatening.
Yeah,
I don't know. I wonder if she can. Now I had the same concern about Gal Gadot too. That's
right?
Like, is she physical enough?
They get trainers for all these people. Yeah. This is the criticism I never understand from fanboys anymore. It's like, they're too skinny. They can't they're calling Jim Jones. They're gonna get this taken care of. You know, it's the same thing where fan casting based on people's hair colors or whether or not they're bald. There are wigs and hair dyes, people. You know, this is not an issue.
Hollywood's not capable of doing convincing hair dyes.
Decades.
Well, going back to Max Lord, though, do you remember the scene where they showed that crystal or that rock? Any idea what that was referencing?
Yeah, I'm not sure.
I don't remember the
scene.
scene.
I guess that's the ancient MacGuffin he finds, I assume.
Ancient MacGuffin is right.
Maybe it's the scarab. Maybe they're bringing in Blue Beetle.
Hey, I'm not going to complain.
You know. Yeah, I don't know what that. It didn't speak to me as being a certain thing.
Do you think they chose the 80s to play off of Stranger Things?
I don't think it's necessarily Stranger Things, but I think you're going to have to explain how she's been hidden for 100 years, and she's obviously running around in public in the 80s.
Mm-hmm. I would have liked for them to have just moved it forward by fewer decades than that. Moved her into World War II, moved her into the 60s, then moved her into the 80s.
It's possible there's a story reason, though, too. We'll find out, but...
Well, I mean, they can always go back and do a World War II story.
Yeah, but then it has to be a thing that didn't affect the thing you've already seen.
Yeah.
Well, we knew that anyway. I mean, that's the way comics are, period. So we're used to that.
I think the atmosphere of the 80s is it's far enough in the past for us that it's really nostalgic. Yeah. A lot of us are close to that era. I know I am. I graduated in '84.
I was 5.
And that music, stab you. That music really hits home, and even the design, of the splash.
So
and the,
when
the
Blue
font.
Monday kicks in, you're just right there with it.
Yes.
You can just go along for the ride.
He's just dancing in his truck.
Yeah. I did see, I want to say it was Patty Jenkins. It might have been Gal Gadot. I can't remember now the other day, speaking about Wonder Woman kind of dealing with the world of the 80s with the materialism, and the political, things that were going on back then. Like how does she, growing up on this island, this peaceful island, deal with what the world's become?
They just wanted to handle the whole pre-internet era, so that was as far as they could go forward without having to deal with. That's true. She would have been found out by now because somebody would have posted a video over on YouTube.
They showed big old giant cell phones back then. No one's taking a picture.
Exactly
with that.
What about the golden armor? I mean, at the end, I wasn't particularly impressed with it. I know a lot of people were excited by that, but
it excited me because Kingdom Come armor, and but I'm like, what? I mean, that's a whole different era. It's an alternate timeline, whatever you want to call it. So I'm not.
I feel like that's just Easter egg.
Maybe.
I don't think it ties into Kingdom Come.
That's my primary gripe with the DC Cinematic Universe. Anyway, is it's like somebody just went down a buffet and pulled crap that's popular from DC and just smushed it all together. So like, why we got Dark Knight Batman for the first Batman movie, basically in this one. Yeah, sure, that makes a ton of sense. They just. It's just a pick and choose menu of things that are popular or that will set people off as like, oh, that's Kingdom Come Wonder Woman. Oh, is this movie Kingdom Come? Oh, hell no, it's not Kingdom Come, but that's her armor. So you know what? Nothing. Like nothing's gonna happen from that. It's just like you said, it's just an Easter egg.
Well, Alex also was happy about it. Apparently, he was tweeting about it.
Yeah, I mean it's cool, but it doesn't mean anything either. They're not gonna do anything that should really excite you other than it existed on screen. If that's all you need is for it to exist on screen, I mean that's fine too, but I feel like they don't. You're just wasting these shots, man. Right. If you decide to make a Kingdom Come movie later, you're like, oh, well, now we're going to do different armor.
They're never doing Dark Knight Returns with what they've already done in these movies. You know what I mean?
I would not say they are never doing that.
Not with this current generation of movies.
It will occur to somebody at some point that DC has evergreen stories, and why the hell are we not making movies out of those?
Yeah.
And you don't need to smush 2 or 3 evergreen stories into one.
Right.
And to make it effective.
I mean, I think we're getting Long Halloween. That's what everybody thinks, at least, even though there's no confirmation. So that's already leaning in that direction of why do we keep inventing new things? That's part of what made the Marvel
another
universe
movie
so good.
Or as the theme of the
Batman,
the new Batman movie.
The Batman. I mean, like, there's not a confirmed on that, but it sure
feels
feels
like
like that's where it's going, right?
Well, the other thing is too, you don't say that, then you don't have to pay the writer.
That too.
You know what I mean? There's that.
Well,
Marvel's pulled that quite a bit
You'd
too.
think they'd be trying to woo Jeff Loeb back since he just got fired from Marvel.
I know,
so,
right?
That now's the time.
Yeah.
What's it cost you to pay him for a little? I don't know.
So one thing that tends to bug me about the Wonder Woman movies, like her power set constantly evolves. So now we got her lassoing lightning.
Yeah.
I don't know what I think about that.
I saw a lot of people really excited, and I think it seems really stupid.
I thought it was kind of silly myself.
Is it truly lightning, or is it just another form of the whatever that cross her arms?
I did like the sort of reverse of the bullets and bracelets, where she's ejecting the bullet from the chamber and then. They don't actually show.
They don't show what happens to the bullet.
I want to see that in the movie.
I admit I'm fanboying, and I'm okay with her power set. I mean,
they haven't like explored all the rest of her power yet. Why are they throwing in new things?
Like speaking to animals.
I feel like
that goes over well.
I feel like we're segueing right into Rise of Skywalker, talking about the power set is whatever you need it to be.
Right. But I guess overall, I mean, I was looking forward to Wonder Woman before. I still am. This has not caused me to not be looking forward to it. So and I'm, it's nice to know that still 7 months away. What's the release date? Is it June or July?
Yeah,
June. Okay, so 6 months.
It's like June 20th or something like that, right?
I'm not sure.
So it's still kind of far out, but
we got time.
Yeah. So, but I think it's I think overall it looks still.
I want
to
see more Cheetah. I want to see. I actually want to see a Cheetah, not just Kristen Wiig. We'll see. If
now that
done,
Matt's ruined my image of that by referencing cats.
Yeah,
right. Because I keep seeing a cat's character now.
Good old CGI.
Right. Well, so on to Doomsday Clock.
Doomsday Clock.
Okay.
Somebody start.
Doomsday Clock wrapped up, and sooner than I thought it would, for sure. Sooner than I said on here. previously.
Yep.
I was thinking for sure it'd be 2020.
They
got it in just under the wire.
I felt strongly that we were going to get that biggest publishing day ever.
Yeah, just like the last shipping day of the year, this book comes out.
So independent of talking about Doomsday Clock on its own, I will say, and you haven't seen it, I assume Scott has, it was interesting to me how much was shared between the finale of Doomsday Clock and the finale of Watchmen, the show. Not a ton of like, but there were little like, oh, they came up with the same idea on how to resolve blah, blah, blah. Again, I'm not going to spoil that because Dan doesn't have HBO. He's being a poor fanboy. But anyway, but the two things were done completely in isolation from each other. I know neither one of them is referencing the other. It was just kind of funny. It's like a Swamp Thing Man thing. Incident where well, they're not related. They're based on neither of each other. They're just coincidence.
Happen to be
it's
just
the way it happened to be.
Exactly.
Well, what was they were both based off of something else. I can't remember what it was. There's some other character that they're the Heap. Yeah, they're both based off the Heap. So there's two different interpretations of it.
From Gilman Productions, was that? Gilman, wasn't that the name of the company? Airboy, all that.
Yeah, well, I mostly meant that Swamp Thing and Man Thing are released like a month apart from each other. Yeah, you know, it's a Deep Impact Armageddon thing too. If that'll help you, like just two asteroid movies at the same summer. All right, sure, why not? Anyway, I liked it. I thought it was fine. My biggest gripe, I had two gripes, I guess. One, we talked about this before the show started. I don't want to be a continuity nerd, but I would like to know what from Doomsday Clock actually matters in the DC universe right now. So it sure looks like Ma and Pa Kent are alive, and that's fine. But Alfred's also alive in this, and that's not true. So, like, are we mixing who is and isn't alive as a result of this?
And the whole thing is Doomsday Clock is supposed to be in the near future.
Yeah, like DC Universe was supposed to basically run right up to it, and then Doomsday Clock 12 was supposed to drop. That was going to be their present day now, and then the next month they would move beyond.
But
it was the way that
JSA is already back,
right? Well, and Jeff Johns is no longer the CCO of DC anymore either. That's your biggest thing is he doesn't have the leverage that he used to hold everything back. And I honestly, I kind of wish he had, because I would have liked things to have stayed on whatever track he was playing.
Yeah, I agree. I think the original plan was to reintroduce the JSA and the Legion through the Doomsday Clock story, and then work them into Snyder's Justice League.
Well, and the crazy part is it doesn't seem like what he was planning was too terribly off kilter from whatever it was going to do anyway.
No.
So I don't know.
And how much of this was just feeding that stuff? Like, hey, we're going to do a Legion reboot. Why don't you set up a new
Let me tell you, I have gone through so many reboots that
and
you're
going to keep going
probably the best, most well-organized attempt at setting right the ship of all of the previous crises. And I mean, look at everything from Crisis to 0 Hour, the Crisis in Time, and then Infinite Crisis. This seems to make the most sense now. I believe there were some complexities and it was a bit overly decompressed. It could have been told in maybe 8 issues.
Yeah, I think it was 12 issues solely to have it be 12 issues.
Yeah,
you're right.
Yeah.
I mean,
there's definitely some padding in there.
Yeah, but I mean, I think they're like, well, Watchmen was 12. This is going to be 12 too. Like, did it need to be? No, but it's going to be 12.
Yeah.
Okay.
What I think is interesting is that they didn't just fix Flashpoint New 52. They fixed all of the flubs or the unintended outcomes of previous crises, and proactively addressed future crises, which I'm sure we'll talk more about some of those. But
so that actually dovetails to my second point, which was that originally, and I might be crazy, but didn't they kind of? Well, I mean, the two things are each other. This can be right, and I can still be crazy. It's fine. Didn't they originally kind of like? I don't remember somebody actually outright said it, or if it was just described this way repeatedly. Wasn't this described as Superman versus Dr. Manhattan at one point?
Well,
like I thought when they introduced Doomsday Clock, I thought when they introduced it at San Diego or New York Comic Con that they said it's a Superman versus Dr. Manhattan story, and that's not even remotely true.
No, but I can totally see that's how they're going to build this. What's your other big fight?
Well, so here's the thing: it's not even a Watchmen story. It's a DC Universe story in general. It's a specifically Superman story, and I like it as a Superman story. However, Superman's only in about half the book.
Yeah, he's not in that
and
much.
There is no Superman. Sorry, spoilers are off. The spoiler locks are off, rather. Superman and Dr. Manhattan don't fight.
Yeah, no.
So it doesn't
they stare
actually...
at each other.
Right. And then the whole he's about to punch him thing does happen, but then, of course, it's not what it appeared it was. And,
How about him switching up his punches when in the middle of the punch?
Did he?
Did you guys notice that?
No, I
didn't.
He
swings with his left and then he hits him with his right or something. It's real weird. Go back and look at the page.
In general, and this is like a sticking point for me since junior high reading comics, was that a lot of people don't understand the physics of being punched, apparently.
Yeah.
Because the punch goes one way and then the person goes the other a lot of times in comic art. And it's just because you want the face to turn right. You want the face to turn toward the reader. But no, that's not how it works. He's hitting him left to right. That whatever.
It looks like it's the same fist.
Oh, is it?
Am I looking at?
Where's the page?
This is where the last panel there.
Yeah, but see, it looks like he's pulling back with his left.
Yeah. Look
like
above.
he's getting ready. You see how at the beginning
he's cocking his left back,
but then he hits him
throws
with the
the
right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
right.
there's the.
Dude, do you know what that means he did?
Finishes.
Yeah.
But he's
Oh
saying
my
it looks
God!
like
This
he's
is
getting ready to
not on
swing with
purpose,
it.
but I'm going to pretend it is. It's literally a Superman punch. In MMA, the Superman punch. It's fantastic.
Oh boy,
That's what it is. He did his Superman punch. Oh, I like it better now. So much better.
oh boy. I do like how the back cover is not blood, but it's Superman's cape. I thought that was kind of a cool take because again, for the first few months, you're thinking, oh, it's blood, like before with Watchmen, but it's his cape coming down over the clock.
I felt like the first 9 issues were almost like a completely different story than the last 3.
A lot
The
of
marionette and mime stuff.
Yeah, and that stuff was all good, and it's like all that stuff was abandoned, I felt like. And in issue 10, it becomes just a critique of the metaverse of DC, as opposed to continuing the story that started in the first 9 issues.
I've read the book. I'm still not 100% clear on how we resolved the riots and stuff, and it just sort of like, and then everybody stopped. And then they built so much about the Superman theory and all that, and they sort of like casually make some of it happen, but not all of it.
Is this continuity
all they
now?
did was a very lightweight reference to the JSA are going to investigate the Superman theory. And I'm like, really? That's how you're going to end this story?
And by the way, no, they're not.
Yeah.
This
will never be addressed.
That's never
again.
going to happen.
Yeah.
If you'll recall, I said I don't think any of this is going to matter in the end, and I'm pretty sure it doesn't.
So this is I need to go back and reread Watchmen and reread this all again. But the Clark kid at the end, who does he drop him off with?
That's Dryberg and Laurie.
Okay, did he take Hollis as his alias? Because I saw Hollis, but that was his first name.
Yes, Dan.
So that's what I was
and
trying
Laurie,
to figure it out.
That's
Okay.
They're Mr. and Mrs. Hollis.
That's what I was thinking, but I'm like, man, is that?
So what happens to that poor kid whenever he goes to jail?
Well, that poor kid, along with Rorschach 2 and Nostalgia, becomes the new Minutemen when they do a crossover in Doomsday Clock 2.
Yeah, right. I mean, wasn't that the parting gift from Dr. Manhattan? Was he gave up his existence to fix everything that was wrong with the Watchmen universe or Watchmen Earth, including any potential arrests or crimes.
Right. I do like the idea of like Veidt just knows Manhattan will never be motivated enough to save them. And so he has to get Superman in there.
Yeah. I feel like this is a story that only works because we had so long in between each issue that you kind of gloss over the plot holes.
Right.
Mm-hmm. And I think if you sat down and read 1 through 12, you'd be like, this isn't great.
Yeah.
It's friggin' gorgeous, though.
Oh, yeah. I'm glad they gave Gary Frank the time to draw, you know.
Yep. It's every issue that would come out, I would think, man, I wish this would come out sooner. But if I had to compromise the art in some way, I'm probably willing to wait.
Do you think it's, 3 years then till the next Batman Earth 2 or Earth 1 book?
I saw something the other day that said that it was further along than you'd think and that it should be done soon. But should be done soon.
Yeah,
this book was a year late.
Yeah.
How many issues did we actually get in 2023? 4?
You mean this year?
Sorry, 2019. Sorry, yeah.
I don't know.
So I was thinking about when we get it in 2020.
Like 4.
That's what I was. We got about quarterly. That's what I was thinking too.
Probably.
So, I mean, if he can do 4 slightly oversized issues per year, and if they've already got some
graphic novels aren't that big either.
Yeah, and if he's already got some of it done, which they kind of implied that he did.
Well, he was showing stuff off like towards the beginning of Doomsday Clock.
Right.
Like, hey, this is coming. Like, hey, hold your horses.
That's what I mean. Like it was started before Doomsday Clock.
Speaking of Earth 1, how will that work if the universe, metaverse, multiverse has all been readjusted in these phases?
I don't know.
I
don't think did they ever count them as any of like the 52 universes or anything like that. I feel like Earth 1 is just its own thing regardless.
Okay.
They changed the number to 56 in this? Did I miss that?
What's that?
That? Didn't they change the number to 56?
Pre-Crisis DC is, well,
The Silver Age,
in Flash 123, when Jay Garrick, or basically when, I guess in Showcase 4 is when it starts, but it really culminates in Flash 123 when Jay Garrick is reintroduced, and that's when Earth 2 comes into existence.
Right.
I mean, just literally pops into existence. And then in 1985, after the events of Crisis on Infinite Earths, all that didn't really go away. It just became its own thing.
And I think that's actually that's a
yeah.
really simple, and I don't want to sound cheesy, but it's an elegant solution to DC's continuity problems. Is that every time it's like a time hammer. Every time somebody swings that hammer, we just knock another Earth out, and it means that your Earth or your DC universe, whatever it is still there for someone to go play in that sandbox if they want to. I actually think the 5G stuff that they mention in here. So one of the rumors about 5G is that when they advance time and they retire the classic Justice League and replace them with the new ones, that they're going to continue to tell stories in Black Label, was the rumor, of the classic characters, Bruce Wayne and Clark Kent and stuff. That actually dovetails with Doomsday Clock, that they can just say those things are happening on whatever Earth it is that they decide to call it whenever they make 5G happen. So, I mean, I'm fine with that. And you know, I think the solution of just every time they do something, it creates another world, and it is always about Superman at some level. So, yeah, I'm with you. I liked it a lot. That part doesn't bother me. I saw more complaints from people about, does this mean I have to wait until 2030? No, because that's like completely speculative.
Plans will change by then anyway.
Also,
like 100 years from now,
wasn't one of them 2300?
Yeah,
well, and one of them is also a planned crossover with Marvel where Hulk dies, and I'm like, guys, they don't have a planned Hulk death 10 years from now.
I just love the fun that Johns was having with that.
Well,
that'd be a great wish list.
And he could say
Thor,
but he couldn't say
a green behemoth, if you will, or whatever it was.
Secret Crisis. That's pretty awesome. Man. I loved it. I'm already planning on it. Jeez, I'll be ancient by the time that would ever.
Well, we'll just wait for the movie.
By then, Disney will probably own Warner Brothers by then anyway. So it's fine.
That's the plan. That's their secret. Their secret plan has been revealed here in Doomsday Clock.
That's a
real story.
As a Disney shareholder and a DC fan, oh my God, please buy Warner Brothers. It'd be so great.
Yeah, one of the biggest takeaways I have is not just fixing a lot of things, and granted it was overly complex to do so, but it was still did what it intended, I think. It's just the introduction of two characters, Marionette and Mime. The gleeful villainy. I just love those characters, and I hope they're written well in the future. I like the idea that they kept them, and I think it was because they plan on using them again. They were well received by the audience.
I think they basically just created a Joker and Harley that are not directly tied to Batman. That they can use, wherever. And I think that's really smart. And they're just great characters, too. It's the same as we were laughing about with Red Scare and stuff. How have those names not been taken by now? Like, how is Marionette still on the shelf?
I thought it was like a modern-day Punch and Julie.
I did, too.
I feel like it's Charlton, DC versions of those characters.
Well, all the rest of the Watchmen characters are, so that makes most sense.
Except for Silk Spectre.
Well, I mean,
she's not based off Nightshade. She's based off of a quality comic, the Phantom Lady.
Yeah, she's a mashup of those two, plus, frankly, damn near every femme fatale character from the Golden Age. Yeah, she's based the least on a Charlton character. So on to Rise.
Well, are we going to grade it? Are we just going to move on to Rise? Either way's fine with me.
Let's grade it. What do you give it?
I'll say fine, just overall for the whole book.
I was gonna go. It was very fine plus until issue 10, and then it's back down at the fine level for me. The ending and I don't buy it as explained in the DC universe. It didn't say anything that we didn't already know there.
No, I think it's a Jeff Johns love letter to Superman in the DCU more than it is like an event that matters. And
hey, Superman's important.
Well, what event matters anymore?
I was actually about to say, I think Crisis still matters, right? Crisis is still gets referenced back to when the crisis happened, blah, blah, blah.
Will we be talking about Doomsday Clock in 20 years or anything else?
0 hour doesn't matter. Exactly. Most of them don't. I mean, I think about that all the time with Marvel books, too. Like, Civil War, in all likelihood, will probably be a thing that people will look for 20 years from now in a run. Now, it's not it's not Secret Wars where it has, the first black suit and all that stuff. But it's also probably not quite as nostalgic for people. But no one's going to go looking for Civil War 2.
No.
Ever.
Yeah.
Marvel sort of pretends Civil War 2 didn't happen already.
If they are.
Most events are like Civil War 2. Yeah, no kidding. In the 50 cent, they'll probably still be in the 50 cent boxes. But most events don't really matter for very long. So that I don't mind. Mike, what do you give it?
Well, I struggled with this scoring. I think quality for the writing was good, and I think the art was fantastic, but the pacing and the slow release over the course of 3 years, it just really took it. But I would have given it a very fine, but I think I'm like Scott and Dan and give it a fine, maybe fine plus.
How the hell am I the one that's going to give it the better grade? What parallel universe have we stepped into?
We just split off and made a new universe.
I know. Earth map just came into existence. That's the one where I'm nice all the time. I'm going to give it. I'm going to give it very fine. I still think my gripes with it are my expectations combined with the way that DC pitched it and publicized it. Had I sat down and read it 1 to 12, I think I would have probably liked it more. But it's just the weight plus the way it was publicized and promoted doesn't quite match up with what you actually got. But that's not a failing of the story. That's a failing of my expectations and DC PR.
Yeah, I think that's just the system in general, the way things work anymore.
And Johns and Frank could have done themselves a favor by stepping on the freaking gas.
Yeah.
But I also don't want to have subpar Gary Frank art. I mean, you look at that last issue, and I thought, I don't know that this was worth waiting an extra year. But there's some freaking gorgeous panels in here, and I get why they took a long time. So I don't know that it was worth it. I did check, by the way. We got 4 issues in 2019. Okay. 9 came out in March. 8 came out in December of last year, and then we got basically one every 3 months.
Quarterly.
So, and if they had said it's a quarterly book up front,
as soon as they said, "Hey, we're making this book bi-monthly," I'm like,
I might be unfair with that grading.
Are you?
Yeah, like no, you're not. This will be. They're dragging it out. They're willing to wait. Then is what that.
I mean, I think I would give it like an 8.5. I still really enjoyed it. I want to read it again. I went through and marked as unread all the issues on my Comixology just to reread them again. What?
We don't talk about Comixology here. That other place.
I definitely do. I've bought every issue of this book 3 times and 12 4 times because I bought the blank variant on that one too. I own both covers. I bought it on Comixology, and then I bought 3 covers for 12. So it's not like I'm not spending the money for the books. I'm not taking anything out of anybody's pocket here.
Hello, my name is Matt, and I have
issues. I have issues. I was at a different comic shop yesterday, and somebody was talking about an old lady had come in to buy bags and boards. Her son had a fire at his house, and she bought 1,000 bags and boards for him to replace his collection, or to re-bag and board his collection. And they were like, "Isn't that sweet?" And I had a weird look on my face, I guess. And they're like, "What?" And I said, "I'm just imagining a world where only 1,000 bags and boards would let me redo my collection." And that sounds nice. Right. Like, man, that must be great.
That take no time at all.
I know. Like, that's 10 boxes. That's so great. I have 10 boxes just in my living room.
5 boxes.
Actually, more than 10 boxes in my living room, actually. So I'm like, well, yeah. But anyway, no, I'm not taking any money away. And Comixology is a great way to read books. I'll die on that hill. I can not take a stack of them wherever I go. And every time I'm in line somewhere, I'm like, well, get the phone out. What have I got in Comixology that I haven't read? Here we go.
Encourage that.
Still on. Hey man,
I'm not buying crazy.
Somebody might need to, because digital comic sales are flat over the last 3 years. It was supposed to be the thing that disrupted the industry, but it hasn't changed jack. Talk about crazy.
So I've been getting all DC's Dollar Comics reprint books because for a while I was buying so many True Believers. I thought about just adding True Believers to my list. So when DC started doing, I'm like, all right, I'm getting all these. I realized the other day, except for like one of these, I've got all the originals of these books.
I specifically don't buy them because either I do have them or I intend to have them. So I don't need that.
Yeah. But they're $1.
And for a placeholder.
I know. But I have enough unnecessary issues in my collection as it is.
This has turned into a Comic Collectors Anonymous.
Yeah.
I believe there are people listening who are nodding their heads right now and being like, yep, I know what you mean. Every time I start buying both covers of something, I think, you idiot, why are you doing this? I own every cover of Scott Snyder's Justice League. including the one where they did like 3 or 4 covers or whatever because it was connecting. I bought those too, and as I'm doing it, I'm like, this is so dumb. Why am I buying these? When will I stop? I thought that I was going to stop buying both covers of Batman when Tom King left him, and then I just wrote MM×2 on the 10 ones, and I'm like, because it's only going to 100. Yeah, that's what. But what if 101 comes out? Ah, crap! Now I got to keep buying this forever. So every time I buy both covers of Jimmy Olsen, both covers of Lois Lane. I don't know why. They had good variants on one, and I just kept going. I guess.
And you have to have the A,
right, and like you. When Wildstorm started, I was buying the A cover and the Jim Lee cover on every issue, and then I kind of forgot about it, and now I have some and not others, and it's horrible as a collector. I look through it and I'm like, oh no, why did I not do this?
I wish this was video based.
So you can all see me rubbing my face. If I had hair, if I had hair on my head, I'd be pulling it out. Like, no, I'm not that OCD, but every once in a while, I'm a little bit.
I think we've all done it.
Yep.
You know.
So 8 and a 5, 8.5. I'll give it. Yep.
Star Wars.
Okay, you guys go first. Well, so first of all, how many times have you seen it, Dan?
I've only seen it once. I'm going to see it again tomorrow.
I've seen it once.
And Mike hasn't seen it all. I've seen it twice. Okay.
All right.
It's the only time in my life that I've had a second Star Wars queued up, and after I saw it the first time, I went, "Oh God!" we went. Dan's showing is the same one that I went to. We went on opening night, and then at work, we had planned our last day of work was me and the other 2 guys in my office. We came in, we checked email, then we went to brunch, then we went to Star Wars. So we had the tickets, and then we went home. That was our day, and we already had it planned. And after I walked out of the theater with Dan and my wife and my nephew and my nephew's girlfriend, I thought, oh God, I have to see this again tomorrow. No, and I've never. I'll save my hate for a little bit. I'll let you guys talk nicer first.
Well, I really liked it.
Feel free.
Did you? I did.
Oh no!
I don't know. I'm getting frustrated with these. This isn't what I thought it was going to be, and I'm not saying that's what you're going on about, but there's so much of that with Star Wars anymore. Yeah, I'm just sick of it.
Well, look, I hated that with the Last Jedi people. Yeah. Having said that, I generally think most people's complaints about the Last Jedi aren't actually about the movie. They're about race and gender and politics. It's why are there all these women and brown people in the Star Wars?
Yeah, exactly. Real quick on Last Jedi, I feel like it works better as a standalone movie. As the middle part of this trilogy, I think that's where the issues come in with that movie. Well, with the sort of backpedaling it does.
So here's the thing. It's not that there's a problem with Last Jedi. There's a problem with Rise of Skywalker, which basically, do you remember when Rise of Skywalker came out and there was the meme pic making fun of the people when Last Jedi came out, there was a meme pic making fun of the people who didn't like Last Jedi that was a fake opening scroll that the first line was everything in the last movie was a dream.
Oh.
It's back the way you thought it'd be. That's this movie. Somebody took that meme and turned it into a friggin' script.
Well, see, that was a thing. There's not as much of that as I was afraid there was going to be.
If there was any, I wasn't going to be happy about that.
You could tell this is not where Abrams thought these movies were going.
Yeah,
he was done with Force Awakens.
But you know what? If you wanted to be in charge, maybe your lazy ass should have made Last Jedi.
He absolutely should have stuck around. Disney should have just given him whatever he wanted to just stick around and make all 3. It's ridiculous. And they don't,
Here's what I know about J.J. Abrams. He doesn't know how to write a resolution. And he likes to leave projects before he has to write a resolution. Yeah. Lost!
But I feel
so
like
I'm not surprised he can't stick a damn landing.
I think it's the same thing, which, is a criticism of other franchises right now, is they don't have a Kevin Feige, someone kind of overseeing everything. It's not Kathleen Kennedy.
Right, it was supposedly Kathleen Kennedy, but
the way they're hiring and firing people over there to make these movies. They don't have a clear
technically
vision.
Is her role. The difference between her and Feige is I think she doesn't care about a tight story the way Feige does. I think she has looser, does it feel like Star Wars kind of stuff. And I don't know, man. I have a lot of issues. We can break them down one by one if we want. I don't care, but
I know we have the fleet. I'm glad we don't have another singular super weapon. We don't need,
no, you're wrong. That's in my opinion, that's dumber. Yeah. Okay, so here's what I need you to explain to me. So we have a long running joke with my friends that are Star Wars people, which is explain to me what Luke's plan in Return of the Jedi was. What was Luke's plan supposed to be to get Han back? Because Luke's plan actually only works if Luke's plan fails. The entire Jabba subplot makes no sense. It doesn't make any sense at all because you know that it goes wrong, but what was supposed to happen?
Yeah.
And you can't figure it out. It doesn't work. Assuming that Leia got Chewie out the way she planned, you still left Lando and the droids. Okay, so, all right, so it doesn't work, but you also, it's all predicated on, okay, we're going to send the droids in, and he's going to keep them. And then they're going to put R2 into the drink serving thing, and then I'm going to go in, Leia's going to get caught, and then I'm going to go in, and then I'm going to get caught. And then we're going to go to the Sarlacc, and then R2's going to be on the top deck. He'll be able to get away, and then he can shoot the lights. None of it makes sense, right? It's awesome, but it doesn't make a lick of sense. This movie makes the previous two movies make no sense at all. Do we agree that Palpatine was controlling Snoke the whole time? That's what you're supposed to take away from this, right?
Right.
Why did they need Starkiller Base?
To destroy the Republic.
But they had a fleet of super weapons on Star Destroyers. They rolled up and were like, what's up? And blew up a planet with one of them. They've got hundreds of them. Why do they need Starkiller Base?
Well, was the fleet around then? How old is this fleet?
Well, I don't know, dude. There's not very much time in between the movies.
Right.
There's like, what, months?
Oh, I guess how much time is
How
there?
quickly can you knock out a Star Destroyer and a super weapon?
Right.
It feels like it would take you more time to find a planet, hollow it out, build a reactor in it, fly it around, like drain a sun and fire a bendy laser across the galaxy, rather than, I don't know, fly one of the Star Destroyers.
I think the implication is that he's been hidden away doing this for a long time.
But why was he doing
Return of the Jedi?
any of the other things?
Exactly.
Well, again,
none of it makes sense.
This is the backpedaling of
Correct.
Palpatine wasn't supposed to be in this movie.
Right.
Okay.
Right. I agree.
So the thing is that basically the Star Wars universe has been a train wreck since Return of the Jedi. I mean, it became more about the toy licensing than about what is actually on the screen.
So to me, a lot of the complaints about Last Jedi, right, were Luke doesn't feel like Luke. Okay, the reason
go back and look at Luke.
The reason people think that is because Luke's been a boring ass Mary Sue in the EU since 1983. What has Luke done that was interesting ever in any of the EU?
For sure.
Nothing.
Well,
Every
just
EU
go
story.
to the movies. What's he
movies,
done?
right.
He's never been
whiny.
I agree.
He's
Luke,
whiny through all the movies.
My thing with Last Jedi, where they're like, Luke is such a screw up in this. Dude, that's all Luke does in the original trilogy. Luke is stupid. He's so stupid, which is what makes his character interesting. He is what you would do if you were a dumb 20-year-old who just got superpowers and a laser sword. You'd be like, I'm going to go fight him and get my friends back. You do dumb stuff. That's what makes him interesting. So the idea that Luke later is like, I got to stop just charging in lightsaber first like an idiot. I got to quit this. That's actually awesome. All on top of which, it's actually what was originally supposed to be the ending of Jedi, right? Like, you know what the original ending of Jedi?
No.
The original scripted ending, do you know this?
Well, the only thing I know is it's supposed to be Kashyyyk instead of the moon of Endor.
Correct.
Ewoks.
But the actual resolution of Jedi was supposed to be, okay, you know the scene where Leia gets shot? That's supposed to be Han, and Han's supposed to die.
Right.
The scene where the Falcon flies out of the mushroom cloud, originally they did not fly out of the mushroom cloud. Lando and the Falcon die in the Death Star explosion. And in the end, it's just Leia and Luke are the ones who survive. And she basically says, hey, come help me build a new government. And he says, peace, and walks away. And that's the end of it. Luke basically has seen enough. I've been involved in enough fighting. There's enough war. I don't want to do this anymore. The galaxy doesn't need me. Bye-bye. And they kind of do that at the end of this, which I really, really like.
I don't think that's all accurate because Harrison Ford wanted Han Solo to be killed off in Return of the Jedi.
He did.
They didn't do it.
In the original draft of the script, he died.
Okay. I'd have to see that, but I've never heard that. So.
Whole lot of people died in the original, but then they were like, well, we want to sell toys and keep everybody around forever. And we did. And that's why I didn't like, that's why I wasn't such a huge EU guy, right? Because they're all just these throwaway stories where, what a surprise, Han, Luke, and Leia swoop in and save the day again, and everything goes back to the way it was, and there's a previously unknown super weapon.
It's also the thing of like, hey, you guys remember Tatooine, how that was supposed to be real bad? This planet's worse. There's a lot of that in the EU.
Name the Tatooine knockoffs in this trilogy. Go.
Jakku.
Name the other one.
Is
exactly. Name anything you know about that planet that couldn't have been Tatooine.
Oh, for sure.
They're all just Tatooine.
There's only one sun, though, bro.
Yeah, yeah. Well, you think they never showed the sky, so you don't know. Maybe there's 3 suns on that planet. You don't know. They didn't show the sky. The only reason you know there's 2 suns on Tatooine is because they show it to you every time they're there. They're like, by the way, there's both suns. We're on Tatooine. Yeah. I got you.
I think part of it is that, to me, Star Wars is always supposed to have been just a superficial, fun sci-fi popcorn movie, and people have tried to add this depth to it that it doesn't need and can't support.
Well, definitely with Luke, because like we never see Luke being the badass hero he's supposed to be, and part of that's because you have Han Solo in there, kind of filling that role. When it should have
everybody
been Luke.
liked Han Solo.
Oh, yeah,
Nobody
for sure.
liked Luke.
I did too.
Everybody likes lightsabers. No one likes Luke.
Yeah. That's the other thing with Mandalorian being so good. It's like, as we're recording this, we have 1 episode left to go. If we don't get one...
We have 1?
Yeah.
It's only 8 episodes?
Yeah.
Oh, I thought it was 10.
No, I'm pretty sure it's 8, right?
I think the last one's this Friday. Or is it this Friday?
I think so.
Yeah, it is.
So if we get through this episode, we'll have a really good Star Wars show with no lightsabers.
Yeah.
Oh.
And that's something they need to figure out.
So I used to say back then, and I was an enormous buyer of the EU for a long time because I'm a giant Star Wars fanboy. And I used to always say the things that I wanted to see from Star Wars were I wanted to see the underworld of Star Wars because all of the Boba Fett, Han, Jabba stuff seems really freaking interesting. And the movie always like just sort of casually does it. I wanted to see that. And the other thing has been my gripe since I was a kid was there's a shocking lack of war in a series called Star Wars. Like there's not much warfare happening here. And I got that in Rogue One. It was really cool. And really Mandalorian. Really good. And look, Solo's not a perfect movie.
Right. But you get that in there.
But you do get to see the stuff that you kind of always wanted to see happen in a Star Wars
Back to the
movie.
Underworld real quick. There was that show they were working on.
I know.
50 scripts for.
Yep. Yeah. And I feel like at least some of that got repurposed into Mandalorian.
I would
don't you think?
But it's like, why not just take those scripts and do a book series or something with them?
Yep.
If you're not going to do a show, just do something.
I was reading all of the Thrawn trilogy, the Zahn stuff, and all that stuff was really, really good. And then they let Kevin Anderson start writing for Star Wars, and I had to quit. I was done. It was just so bad.
I'm really picky with the EU books. Like I've got to hear some good reviews before I'll pick anything up.
And I'm not saying some of the stuff's not good, but honestly, the EU has generally been better the less that they have the Holy Trinity in it.
Oh yeah, because they can do whatever with those characters.
You can kill Anakin off, or Anakin Solo. You totally kill him off, no problem. We're kind of talking about EU, and we're kind of talking about Rise of Skywalker at the same time.
We're not done with Rise of Skywalker. So if you don't know, Mike Atchison stepped out of the room because he hasn't seen the movie
He just
yet.
came back in. That was me talking directly to Mike.
We're not
forgetting that we're not on video.
Wars, so.
I'll wait for the silent whistle.
Okay. Right. See, Mike.
We're catcalling Mike to get back in here.
Come talk about Christmas comics. That'll be the whole do.
My biggest gripe about this is I didn't particularly care for some of the actors that they chose. I don't think John Boyega. I don't think he's a particularly good actor.
I love him in Attack the Block, but again, that's a completely different thing.
I haven't seen that. All I've seen him in is the Pacific Rim movies and Star Wars. That's the only thing I've ever seen. And he hasn't impressed me in either one of those movies. I really enjoyed Daisy Ridley. I mean, I think she's doing great.
So things I liked. I thought Daisy Ridley did an awful lot with of solid acting with a really dumb script. I think that Ian McDiarmid did an awful lot with a role that basically said, look menacing while hanging on a coat hook.
Yeah.
Right.
So he was good.
Yeah. I wish he wasn't in it at all, but he is, and he did a pretty good job. I think the score is awesome. My Star Wars hill that I'll die on is that if you remove John Williams' score, those movies are garbage. And I love Star Wars, but there is no actual emotion in almost any of the performances of any character. The idea that you have that Han and Leia are in love is 100% based on the fact that you hear the Leia theme every time.
Otherwise, it's a creepy stalker.
Yes. Otherwise, it's just sort of like, she's trapped in my ship. I know she's going to love me.
Right. The implications.
Right. There's some weird crap if you take away the music. And I think all of the little original trilogy callback riffs that he put in him, I know it's fan service, but they work really, really well. And it was a nice send-off to the Skywalker saga in terms of like the people who like got all emotional about this movie. It's 100% the score. It is not the movie. It's the music made you feel that way, which is what happens in every Star Wars movie. Like the Anakin and Padme romance is creepy and weird, but Across the Stars is an awesome love theme. And so now you don't feel so weird about it. Because they're like, think of that awesome song they play every time they look at each other. They're like, oh yeah, he's a serial killer and she knows it and she's cool with it. Yeah, but there's also this great romantic song. So I love those things. The movie looks gorgeous.
Yeah, it looks good.
Don't have any problem with that. Like no bad CGI, no unconvincing anything as far as that's concerned.
Accurate use of monkeys.
So I said on both Facebook and Twitter, it should tell you something about Rise of Skywalker, and I was implying, and how bad it is, that no one is even talking about the fact that there's a friggin' chimp that reforges Kylo Ren's mask. And you think I'm joking if you haven't seen it, but I'm not. There's a chimp in a sci-fi visor that reforges his mask and looks at him like it's about to go banana, when it's like he's going to feed it a freaking banana. And it's literally a monkey reforging his mask. That's not the dumbest thing in that movie.
Because all the other humanoids were busy on the 1,000 ships that have been sitting in the middle of no place.
Right, that no one noticed were being built, and that no one noticed people were all being shipped away to the unknown region. And then they're like, oh my God, look how many ships there are. Well, couldn't you figured it out? Like, somebody had to get the materials somewhere.
Yeah, Zahn did that better in the Dark Fleet.
I laughed and told him after I saw it the second time, I said, I know I hate the Final Order fleet. But there's a part of me that's in 7th grade and reading Dark Force Rising. It was like, oh my God, you guys, it's the Dark Force.
But it was much better implemented in Dark Force Rising.
It really was.
Yeah.
But it was kind of neat to see him steal. That's from 1992, I think.
I don't even remember. Yeah.
I think they're 91, 92, 93, because I think they came out every year I was in junior high.
Tape for audio.
Oh man, that's great. So those are the things I like.
Yeah, Adam Driver was poor in this one. He has been in all of them.
Doesn't he look like a John Romita Jr. drawing in this movie?
He kind of does.
I was thinking that while we were watching it the other night. He's straight up like, someone commissioned John Romita Jr. to draw Kylo Ren. It will look like how he looks in this movie.
I feel like I have ruined a lot of people's fun in the last week when they're like, I loved it. And I'm like, that's terrible. And then they're like, I liked, and they would give me some random thing. And every time I feel like I've popped their bubble. So I've got a lot of, I thought the character stuff was great. No, it was terrible. But I loved Kylo's redemption. It didn't make any sense. Like, why did Kylo get redeemed?
Because he wants to be Darth Vader.
That's
what Darth Vader does.
That's a meta reason. That's not a character reason.
He knows
if he was redeemed, why didn't he show up at the end as a blue force beam?
Yeah.
Also,
I guess you're not.
It didn't happen. It didn't dawn on me until the second time. Han's not a force ghost. This is just in his head.
His imagination, yeah.
Which is even worse.
Right.
So ultimately, I can boil my hate for the movie down to one sentence, which is a complicated sentence. The previously unknown daughter of a previously unknown son of a previously unknown wife of a guy who was thrown down a reactor shaft into a space station that exploded, that then fell and crashed on a planet, is who comes back to be the bad guy and the good guy and the bad guy. Like, that's again, really your logic.
It's just a reaction to Last Jedi.
It is,
right? Like,
because everybody
Snoke
in Star Wars is related to somebody.
line.
Janna is Lando's daughter. They cut that scene, but Janna is Lando's daughter,
Right.
and confirmed by Pablo Hidalgo because everybody's related to somebody.
Right.
Again, where's the Force stored, Dan? I'm not going to say it on the podcast because Scott will
safe.
Really.
Safe, yeah.
But it's one of my favorite things I've seen somebody say. The Force is stored in the balls because evidently you must be related to someone.
It's genetic.
Tell me why there's a connection between Rey and Kylo. Justify that for me, please. They go on and on about your connection based on what? He tried to kill her, and.
Yeah.
What do you mean?
They say, well, look, it's your connection through the Force is so strong. Why? Why do they have a connection through the Force?
Because Snoke implemented it in
How?
Last Jedi.
How?
What do you mean?
How do they have a connection?
know.
Why do they have a
Stockholm
super
syndrome.
connection through the Force?
He manipulated it through the Force.
It's Stockholm syndrome.
They talked about it in Last Jedi. They established
Dude,
that.
there is no connection. It's nonsense.
That's how they can talk to each other in that.
It's space magic is their
That's
connection.
all the Force is,
Yeah,
dude.
but
If
like-
you're going to tear that down, come on.
No, they
Why
imply
are we
there's
even
like
watching
they
these
also imply
movies?
there's a personal connection, right? Like, oh, they're so personally connected. No, they're not. They don't know each other. These are people who have never met, other than when they try to kill each other, and that's it.
It's
The
Stockholm
Force
syndrome.
can teleport things now.
He's been persecuting her, so therefore, now all of a sudden she gives into it. So
It's so bad. It's just so bad.
How about the little funny guy that worked on C-3PO,
Yeah.
though?
We needed a tinier Ewok.
Those people behind you love that.
Oh my God, they did, didn't they? It was really funny. So when we saw it here in Carbondale, Dan and I, which he just referenced, there were people behind us who like distractingly cackled over everything Babu Frick said, right? And then when I saw it in O'Fallon, the entire theater was dead silent. And I was like, that's right. Better audience second time. It is the only time that I've ever seen a Star Wars movie that ended with stunned silence. Everybody in O'Fallon just got up and walked out at the end of it. There was no like, I hate the applause at the end of the movie. I think that's stupid. They can't hear you.
Right.
And the people working here don't care. But there was a smattering of applause.
Yeah.
We saw it in Carbondale. There was nothing.
Really?
When I saw it the second time, everybody just got up and walked out.
And so this was Friday. You saw it the day after opening day.
We saw it on technically opening day,
Right,
but yeah,
right.
not the early
Yeah.
showing. Yeah, everyone just got up.
So that's
and
still
walked out.
people who are like,
They're the
gonna go see
hardcore.
Star Wars.
Oh, yeah.
On Friday, we're going.
So with the two guys from our office, it was really funny. I got in the car and I was intentionally not just machine gunning hate at them, right? I was like, what did you guys think? Because they knew I didn't like it. And both of them were like, I liked it. And they did the high, I like it, which you know is a lie. Right. And I'm like, cool, what did you like? And they would tell me one thing that they would then qualify with how they kind of didn't like it. And then there would be 15 more minutes of hate. And then when they'd end with, but I did like it. I did like it though. And I'm like, So we had this happened 2 or 3 times. We had almost an hour of I liked it, followed by an endless string of complaints. And I'm like, at the end of it, I said, I don't think you guys liked it. And they're like, no, I did. I said, let me ask you something. If you took the Star Wars license away from this, would you have liked this movie? And they were like, oh, no. And I said, right. So you didn't like the movie. You just liked Star Wars. I'm like, I had a good time seeing it, but I had a good time seeing Aquaman too, and it was terrible.
Oh, see, I didn't have a good time watching Aquaman. So.
There was a point in Aquaman where I was just like, this is dumb and it isn't going to get better. I'm going to ride this wave all the way back to shore.
Mike, you want to talk about Aquaman?
He's going to come running. Did we start about Aquaman? Is Jason Momoa in Star Wars? But I felt the same way with Rise. Like, I watched it the first time with you and I thought it was not great. And the second time I actively disliked it.
My son has also seen it twice, and he insists that it is better the second time. Now he is all in on Star Wars. So he's all in on Star Wars. So it doesn't really matter. I remember when like the prequels came out and people were arguing with me about how good they are.
Dude, I saw Phantom Menace 6 times in the theater, and I left really, really liking it the first time. And then I liked it less every time I thought about it. And I think I saw it 6 times inside of like less than a week. But it was because I kept like having other people who were like, I haven't seen it yet. Let's go. And I think, okay,
might as well
go back again.
What else
like,
do I have to do?
Whatever.
Right.
But I saw it twice in a row. Like I saw it opening day, and then I saw it the next day, I think. And then like my dad wanted to go, and he was like, we're gonna go see Star Wars together, don't we? And I was like, all right. And I went. And then my girlfriend was like, I can't believe I haven't seen it yet. I'm like, okay. And so I just kept finding other people who were like, we gotta go. You want to go with me? Sure. $19.99 movie prices were also cheaper,
right.
So it wasn't like we were really putting myself out here to do it. But I liked Phantom Menace when I walked out of it the first time. That opinion dropped quickly.
Yeah, I didn't care for it. It was okay. Phantom Menace had like basically 3 good scenes.
Yep.
It had a cool, bike or whatever it was. I can't remember what it's called. Pod race.
But
scene,
show me
right?
show me anything in the prequel trilogy that is as cool as the pod race.
Yeah, nothing.
I'm sorry, the sequel trilogy, right?
Oh yeah. Well, nothing. No.
Right.
And then it had
Show me a
really
lightsaber
good,
fight that
had
was
a
as
really
good
good
as-
lightsaber fight, right? And then it also had there was one other thing, and I can't even remember what it is now that I really liked in the first one, or in episode 1.
I always laugh that Phantom Menace is a lot like Return of the Jedi. That the opening environment and action is really cool, and then it takes a steep drop after that. So once you get out of Jabba's palace, Jedi's drops a lot. Jedi's my sentimental favorite. It's the only one I saw in the theater as a kid. I was born in '79, so obviously I couldn't have seen A New Hope, and I was less than a year old for Empire. I saw those on like ABC Sunday night movies and stuff when I was a kid. But I love Jedi. It's the worst of the original trilogy, but it's my sentimental favorite, right? Objectively, Jedi gets worse the second you leave Jabba's palace, and Phantom Menace
if you cut out most
the
of
second
Endor,
you get off that trade ship.
If you cut out most of Endor out of Return of the Jedi, it's actually really, really good. I think it's a really, really good movie.
I even think the Ewoks are not so dumb as long as the Empire doesn't say an entire legion of my best troops.
Right.
If you think that he's got like the scrubs guarding the bunker, then you're like, oh, the teddy bears, the sticks and rocks are not so dumb. But like, dude, those are your best troops. You held on to the galaxy for 20 years with people who were beaten by teddy bears? Like, that's terrible.
That's the other thing with Rise. It's like, what's the timeline here? How long has the Republic been around?
And why do they suck?
They're just wiped out so quick.
Mandalorian kind of helps a little bit with that, honestly, right? Because
Yeah,
like,
but
there's
then
the
it's
whole
like-
everybody thinks it's a joke.
Yeah. But it's like, what did they do to establish their footprint in this universe?
I actually, my thing
and that
about
they're taken out so easily.
yeah,
you know,
because
so quickly.
apparently everybody was on one planet, and somebody was like, blow it up, and then they were like, well, I guess we're done.
Yeah.
So
I would actually still take Rise over any of the prequel movies. Episode 1, 2, or 3. I prefer it over those 3, which I think are all atrocious.
I don't think there's anything in those movies that is as dumb as the cavalry charge on the surface of a Star Destroyer.
Well, yeah, and the fact
They
that they're
ride
breathing.
space horses.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Also, did you notice that? The biggest gripe most people have with the sequel trilogy is they're just remakes of the original trilogy.
Mm-hmm.
Did you notice they stole the take the gun pointed at the deck?
Yeah.
From Jedi. That's what
It's
what Finn and Janna do is they do the Luke then Leia thing. They take the gun and point it at the deck.
Yeah, Force Awakens, Last Jedi, and Rise of Skywalker, they're all just constant homages back to something in the original trilogy. Almost everything.
The hill I'll die on for Last Jedi is that I insist the people who did not like Last Jedi would not have liked Empire if they watched it new. Because Empire is a hard left turn away from A New Hope. If you watched nothing but A New Hope in '77 and you went to Empire, you would be mad that all of a sudden Leia's in love with Han and not Luke because you were led to believe that this was going to be a Luke thing. You would be mad that Darth Vader is Luke's father because you were led to believe Obi-Wan said he killed your father. You'd be mad that the Emperor is in it because Darth Vader was the bad guy in A New Hope. I was totally misled. I thought this was Vader was the bad guy. Who's this new guy that I've never even seen before? Right. And then if you're of a certain philosophical bent, you'd be mad about Lando the same way people were mad about Kelly Marie Tran, that there's tokenism in it. Oh, yeah, we're going to throw a black guy in. That's what everybody said about Last Jedi, even though that just makes you a racist. But all of the complaints that I've heard about Last Jedi are all complaints that are valid about Empire Strikes Back. But nobody, for whatever reason, cares about that. But all the complaints about Jedi are also true about Rise of Skywalker, too.
As somebody who watched A New Hope at a drive-in and watched Empire Strikes Back in the theaters, that was still my Star Wars.
Oh, I agree.
Yeah, and it was, and I thought Empire was terrific, and I thought Last Jedi was poor.
Yeah.
So
well,
yeah.
I mean, you're wrong, but it's okay. I think the Holdo maneuver's dumb because why didn't they just do that all the time? And then in this one, that's another thing that I hated in this one was like, let's do some Holdo maneuvers. Oh no, it's a 1 in a million shot. Thanks a lot. There were just so many. If you wanted, it's like if you paid to see two directors be passive aggressive to each other, because that's all it is. A Jedi's weapon deserves more respect. Really? You threw it away in Last Jedi. That doesn't even make sense. That Luke would be mad that she threw it away. You threw it away. Yeah. You don't get to then be snarky about it, man. Like it's just a giant hand wave towards. If Jedi had come along and hand waved away Empire, I doubt very much people would be very happy about Jedi.
Well, I actually believe it or not, I actually prefer Rise of Skywalker over Last Jedi. So, I mean, it's my expectations for Star Wars movies have gotten so low.
Yeah.
And it's because of Force Awakens. Force Awakens was fine. I mean, it was there. You know,
I appreciate that Force Awakens needed to reestablish the franchise after all the bad will from the prequels.
They needed to get you back on board.
No problem with that. Yeah. What I loved about Last Jedi, and I don't think it's a perfect movie, Last Jedi took chances to do something unexpected.
Yeah.
Which Star Wars movies rarely do. What chances did Rise of Skywalker take? What interesting decisions did they make?
So you like Highlander 2 over Highlander because it took chances?
Well, no, I mean it's just a bad movie, but like
but it took chances.
But look, there are not what 10, 11 Highlander movies either, where you can look at them as a whole. Like Highlander 2 is just an aborted movie. Yeah, no kidding. There are 5. I guess I'd forgotten there were 5 Highlander movies. I was thinking there were 4 for some reason, but it's still bad. Like, but no, I mean. I think Last Jedi still feels like Star Wars. It feels like Star Wars the way Empire feels like Star Wars. It's a different, darker take. Also, the middle movie of a trilogy is always going to be different than the bookend ones, right? The bad guys have to win in the middle one. Otherwise, if the good guys just win three movies or 3 books in a row, like they weren't very good bad guys then, were they? They just keep getting beat up 3 times. There's also, like, I think we said this after we left, this is why people don't make trilogies. Because everybody already kind of knows the story beats going in. Nobody went into Last Jedi being like, I hope the good guys win. Everybody knew they were going to lose. It's just like, how do you lose?
Sith troopers, huh? They really turned out to be something.
Yeah.
Knights of Ren, how about them? They were important.
Yeah.
They introduced too many things that they just didn't have time to play off. It's like what the
you know whose fault this is?
Zero. What was her name? Zero, that was played by
Zori Bliss.
Yeah,
played by Carrie
Zori.
Russell, who you never see her face.
When
we left, one of the guys who was with me the second time said, "Who was that?" And I said, "It's Carrie Russell." And he was like, "Who's Carrie Russell?" And I said, "She's Elizabeth from The Americans." And he was like, "I knew her voice. Why didn't I see her face?"
I actually thought she was a pretty cool character.
Yep.
I would have liked to have seen more of that, but they crammed her into the last movie.
That was the scene where we found out that Poe is just Han Solo, and Boba Fett is his love interest.
And it's like, and Poe's an unnecessary character completely, as far as I'm concerned.
So do you know whose fault this is? This is J.J. Abrams' fault.
Oh, yeah.
Because this is what he does. He's real great at building mystery boxes. He's not great at opening the mystery box and finding out what's inside.
Right.
But, I mean, I think
I've
said this on the podcast before. Anybody can write half a mystery. It's the easiest thing in the world to do. You just make a bunch of things that don't make sense and are interesting, and then you're like, oh, man, I really want to find out what's going on. Yeah. But the actual landing part, sticking the landing, that's the hard part. And he's not good at it.
Well, no, don't you think that was his intention, though? He's like, I'll do the first one, then I'm off, and it's somebody else's problem?
Correct. And then it turns out he didn't have any ideas, and he wasn't sure where this was going. And he was like, I don't know. I guess it's just the Emperor again.
You're right. Well, it's like, how do I tie up 9 movies, too?
Right.
You know
well, it also, so the Emperor coming back also completely invalidates the first 6 movies from a theme as far as the journey of Anakin Skywalker.
Yeah.
The journey of Anakin Skywalker meant literally nothing.
Do you think the whole thing with Rey is just we needed some reason for the Emperor to be here?
It is that so many angry neckbeard fanboys screamed about her being nobody.
Yeah.
And I don't understand any world where you think her being somebody's grandkid is more interesting than her being nobody.
I know, right?
The idea that I took away, and this is my big love for Last Jedi, by the way, is mostly that I think thematically it's interesting. The idea that heroism comes from anywhere and you don't have to be basically part of the 1% to be a hero, that's way more interesting than the only heroes are people's grandkids.
Especially in a Star Wars movie.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
Yeah. Which
it's
where
like
we've done
just comes out of left field,
right.
Fine.
You're
going to have to establish at some point.
The previous 6 movies
keep making these movies
all
beyond
about
this family.
people's lineage, and I like that the sequel trilogy, in theory, was going to be no man. The Skywalkers don't have a lock on being heroes in this galaxy. You don't have to be related to one of a small number of people. This is like American politics in a Star Wars form. Like, well, the only people who ever get elected are people from these 3 families.
Right. Why wouldn't someone have eliminated this entire family at this point? By the way, if this one family has so much sway and they have magic. Right. And can throw people around and choke them out.
How did nobody notice the Emperor had a wife? Yeah. Why did no one mention this?
Ever. Because, he didn't get her after Mace messed up his face with the lightning.
So the horrible part, right? Well, or did he with his mind powers? Yeah. The horrible part is that a lot of the plot holes in Rise are easily explained by if they just directly say, oh, the Emperor's spirit went into a clone body and we're done.
Yeah.
I mean, it's implied, but they don't say that. And if they say, oh, he built Rey in a lab and then these 2 techs felt bad and took off with her, why does he have to literally be her grandfather?
Right.
It's so much easier if it's just like, oh, he built a super being in the lab with midi-chlorians and blah, 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 blah. And you're like, well, okay. Like, so it's just Anakin too.
And the best part is he's just back.
Yeah.
There's no explanation.
Right. So somebody was like, I can't believe that I spoiled that the Emperor is back. First of all, his voice is in the trailer. Secondly, it's the first line of the crawl.
Yeah.
Things just happen. It's the exact same gripe that I had with Aquaman. I know we keep referencing Aquaman. It's also a terrible movie. A plot is more than events that happen in sequential order. This doesn't have a plot. This just has some things that happen in sequential order.
Oh, I'll agree with that
completely. I mean, explain to me... I've seen it twice. Explain to me exactly what they were looking for in the MacGuffin and in what order and why. I mean, you can't keep track of what planet they went to for what thing because they just bounce from planet to planet looking for, like, I don't know, doodad of some kind.
Apparently everybody's pretty fueled up in this movie, too, that they could just travel around like this, right? They must have solved the gas crisis from Last Jedi.
I didn't think about that.
Like they are
so
just...
true.
great. They just have some oil reserves or something.
And the whole the stormtroopers were force sensitive and now they're good guys thing is so painful. So to confirm, by the way, if you were wondering what Finn was going to tell Rey, it's not that he was in love with her like you'd think that it is.
It's not.
They kind of imply that.
Poe.
It's not that either. I'm telling you.
Apparently, Oscar Isaac is down with.
They feel like there's a little bit of a throuple thing going on there at the end. I'm just throwing that out there. And the two ragingly straight guys who were with me, I said, it's just me, or does it feel a little bisexual at the end? And they were like, yeah, it feels that way. I was like, oh, good. It's not just me being the liberal in the room, I guess. I was like, feels a little like maybe there's something else going on there. And they were like, yeah, it really does. So, but Pablo Hidalgo and someone else from Lucasfilm confirmed that what he wanted to tell her was that he is force sensitive. So all of those, I felt it. That's exactly what you think it is. And that means that Janna and all those stormtroopers are also force sensitive stormtroopers. And I guess the force is like Jesus now, and it just, turns your heart or something.
Feel the force. Why wouldn't they just be like, hey, I'm going dark side like these? Like my boss.
There's awesome stuff.
I'm going to move up in the organization.
Yeah, I'm going to go live on Endor and ride space horses for a while. Yeah, sure.
So should we move on to our closing topic?
Wait, real quick. Lightsaber fight. Okay. If you have a crossbar on your blade like Kylo does, and you get caught up on it, why not just switch yours off real quick and then reignite it in his face? Right?
I'm also irritated that the lightsaber fight, after going out of their way to try to make Daisy Ridley a credible hero and a counter to Kylo, he basically just smacks her around, and she only wins the fight because his mom yells his name and it distracts him. Like, that's so weak that she can't just beat him.
Yeah.
Like, she's got this is heel tactics in your pro wrestling stuff. She's got to the ref's got to get distracted, and she basically hits him with the belt. That's what happened here.
Okay, so we got the 7th episode of Mandalorian early, right?
Yeah,
they gave it to us on Wednesday.
And in a horrible, horrible gift where they're like, oh, by the way, cliffhanger, and you got to wait longer than normal.
I know, right? But that's what's getting me now.
I know, me too.
But do you think the reason why they did that was to establish the Force heel before the movie came out? I mean, is that why they had to show? I don't
think they had to. I mean, I think you're really paying attention to everything if that's the reason.
Well, I would say the people doing The Mandalorian are paying more attention than the people who are doing the movies. So
it sure seems that way.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I've heard that. I mean, I think you move it up just because your audience is going to go see this movie this weekend. Yeah. Get this so they watch the show. We don't want whatever they consider ratings to go down. I keep hearing special guest star in the last episode. People are thinking maybe it's somebody from the movie with the timing. I doubt it. It'd be cool, maybe.
Everybody thinks that was Boba Fett at the end of 6, and I don't know.
But like, I don't see baby Poe showing up in this or something. You know what I mean? Like, I can't see it being anybody really from the movie.
Yeah, he's already got his stupid origin from the comics.
Yeah.
He's a magic baby too. Yeah. He was conceived under a force tree or whatever. That's not a joke, by the way. That's a real thing.
I'm so glad I've avoided the comics.
You've not missed a lot.
So
the Darth Vader book has been pretty good overall.
Yeah, the Vader book's usually good.
But the rest of it's
well, it's Jason Aaron and Charles Soule, right? Who wrote that?
I think it was.
Aaron was on it for a while, I think.
Was he on Vader? I know he was on actual Star Wars.
Yeah, he did the Star Wars book for quite a while.
Charles Soule did the second run, or no, wait, I thought it was Kieran Gillen did one, and Charles Soule did the other.
Maybe that sounds
either
that
way.
Sounds right.
It was not bad.
There's too many to keep up. That's why I'm dropping them.
Yeah. Well, but it's down to 2 now, right?
No.
No, they're 3 already. They're going to relaunch Star Wars, relaunch Darth Vader, relaunch Dr. Aphra, and then there's
the Bounty Hunters book. There's the
Bounty Hunters book
that just came out.
That's a mini series. Yeah. But is it? If it sells, I assure you it's not.
What's the Empire Ascending thing?
That's just the one shot that's supposed to bridge between the 2 runs of Star Wars.
Okay.
And the Kylo thing.
What was the saga thing then? I thought that's what the Star Wars saga book was.
No, the Star Wars saga book is like reprint.
Yeah.
It's like a highlight reel. The Empire Ascendant, and I know this because I flipped through it at a comic shop. I didn't buy it, but I did flip through it. The Empire Ascendant is like when Marvel did Marvel .1, or I assume probably Incoming is the same book. It's like an anthology book that sets up all their other books. So there's 3 stories in Empire Ascendant. There's one that says continue
up each book.
Yep, that says continue next month in Star Wars 1, and one that says continue next month in Darth Vader, and then one for Dr. Aphra.
I tell you
it's
what,
like 3
I
short
did like the
stories.
Target Vader book and that bounty hunter in there. I do kind of like that he's getting a book.
Was he from the old Marvel books too?
I'm not sure where he's from. He looks like he could be.
I know he was in the Han Solo miniseries as like another Imperial cadet or something. I felt like that guy was from the old Marvel book
He
back
could
in the
be.
day, but
I like
might
that
be wrong.
character though.
He looks like an 80s sci-fi
and
character,
these
right?
look like good Lee Bermejo covers on this bounty hunter book too.
Yeah, it looks awesome.
Yeah.
It does look awesome. I know I'm like we're ragging on not going to buy the book. They're like the bounty hunter book. Kind of want to read that bounty hunter book.
Mandalorian.
Mike, have you watched The Mandalorian? Mike's back.
Nope.
Evidently.
What?
Oh! I cast thee out.
Don't get that in Utah.
They do. And I have access. I've got Disney Plus, so there's no excuse except that I've had a couple work projects that I had to work in the evenings
You're gonna like
on.
it. You're gonna like it a lot.
Yeah,
It's much better than Rise of Skywalker.
It's about to wrap up. You can binge all that.
Yeah,
It's over this.
I mean,
Friday.
I've been totally remiss in a lot of my what I would consider. I mean, must-watching like Stranger Things. I haven't seen any of this seasons. So,
You can skip it.
yeah, that's too
It's
bad.
not. It's not. It's the worst season.
2 wasn't
Still,
great.
it's still fun, but
Season
it's the
2
worst.
wasn't great,
Yeah,
yeah.
1 was better than 2. 2 was better than 3, and 3 is.
And I'm in the minority. I just thought 1 was just okay. You know, it wasn't.
I actually like 1 more as a Stephen King fan than anything else.
There's a lot of mystery.
It feels like
in
Stephen
season
King's
1.
Goonies.
Yeah.
And I like both those things, so I enjoy it. But yeah. All right, my shrill voice can go back to a normal tone. Talk about something pleasant like Christmas.
I didn't come back here. I was going to continue buying stuff, and I thought I've just got to come back here.
All right, guys, back to Star Wars. Mike needs money. Mike's got Christmas presents to buy stuff. Send Mike up front.
One of those panic last-minute gifts after I leave here. So
Dude, I had to do the same yesterday, so I get you.
So
But it was a
speaking of
comic-related
Christmas-
gift. So
But speaking of Christmas,
I'm gonna say very fine.
really?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay, I'll go fine for Rise of Skywalker.
I'm going poor.
Four.
Hated it.
Poor.
I hated it.
hard.
Here's my last word on it.
Okay, we're holding you to
I'm
that.
not saying that I think it's worse than the prequels. So I think the prequels are more useless, right? Like inherently I don't like prequels because they just go a place you already know where they're going. But I never walked out of any of the prequels disappointed, and I definitely walked out of this disappointed. I walked out of this one shaking my head. I walked out of all the now part of that's a matter of expectations. I knew what the I wasn't amped for the prequels because I don't like prequels. But I walked out and I was always like, it's fine. That's what that was. Every prequel I walked out of, I still was, I like the OT better. Even when I liked Phantom Menace the first time, I was still like, still like the OT better. I walked out of this one thinking, what the hell was that? Space horses. They rode space horses. So that's not a
Terra
joke.
Man.
Right.
Not in Star Wars. It does feel like a comic booky thing, doesn't it? It really does.
Yeah.
So
it does feel something from the original Marvel books.
Yeah.
From the original
Yeah.
Marvel start when they didn't know
looking
where
for a
everything
green
was
bunny.
going.
And look,
Yeah.
man, if the whole sequel trilogy had been that level of like weird flat, I know they're always like, well, but Lucas wanted to be like Flash Gordon. If the whole sequel trilogy had been Flash Gordon sci-fi, I'd been like, okie doke, no problem. But it's such a weird.
It's all over the place
swerve.
because you don't have a singular vision across.
But you don't have a singular vision in the original trilogy either.
No.
Well, because but in the original trilogy,
Look,
the person
when
who
you
had one idea, handed it off to somebody else, and they did better
He
with
didn't
it.
even write the story for Empire.
Yeah, I know. That's what I think.
You know?
That's why it's better.
But like when you did,
George Lucas is
when
not
you
a good
did
writer
have
or a director.
When you did have a singular vision, you got the prequels.
Yeah, and they were terrible.
Yeah, so I don't know. I don't know.
Well, I think it's more of whose vision it was.
I think the problem is there was no plan.
George Lucas has
I
way
don't-
more
I don't care.
credit than he deserves.
Yes. Oh, I agree. Yeah. It's not that I don't. It's not that I think that one person should have made all of these, but these should have been storyboarded.
Yeah.
In advance. Like clearly, 7 was written without any plan for 8 and 9, and 8 was written without knowing where 9 was going to go. And then 9 went, well, I didn't like 8. That wasn't what I was planning, and then swerved back the other way. Yeah. Honestly, this kind of ends up back where we started with Doomsday Clock. It feels like the two arms were not being used in conjunction, right? Doomsday Clock is fine on its own, and the DC Universe is fine on its own, but the two things are not necessarily matched, and clearly no one was coordinating. And there's nothing, I like Force Awakens, and I like Last Jedi, but they feel like they were written by two different people for two different trilogies, and then Rise is whatever the hell it is that ties it up, I guess. I did love the ending. I will say I love the ending. The very, 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 very ending with Rey, I like that a lot.
How much money has it made so far?
Less than it should have.
More than we'll ever see.
It was the
lowest
biggest. It was the 8th biggest opening in history, though.
It is
the first weekend.
Yes, but it made less than the other two. This sounds crazy to say this, but it made less than $200 million, and that's actually a minor failure for them because there's no world where they didn't expect to make $200 million. It made like 175.
190.
It's 175 for the weekend.
Okay.
And then I don't know what if you consider. I don't know if they were counting Thursdays on that or not, but it's also the lowest rated by Cinema Score, which is the polling people as they walk out. It's the lowest rated Star Wars movie of all time. That is lower than the prequels. It's lower than Solo. It's lower than all the other ones. Now it's still a fairly high grade. It got like a B or a B plus, but even Solo got an A minus, and people ragged Solo up and down, undeservedly. But it doesn't.
So we're gonna get some more TV shows, everybody. That's what that means.
We're getting TV shows, 100%. I mean, I you know what? Honestly, great.
Mandalorian is so good.
Yeah,
and if Mandalorian sets the baseline, then
look,
I'm fine with that.
How much better would the sequel trilogy have been if they'd made it as a TV show? You'd have had so much more time.
You would have had a showrunner.
Right. Yeah. You'd have so much more time to build things up. My biggest gripe structurally with Rise of Skywalker is it's like the Game of Thrones final season where it felt both too slow and too fast. Some things took way too long and some things were just like, that's what it is. And they rushed through it. Like it felt really uneven structurally that there's no, the plot doesn't gel because you like back and forth through it.
Sidebar.
Love it. Go.
Do you think it's in the contracts that they can't release the original cut of the films?
You mean, do I think Disney bought
is prohibited by the contracts from releasing the original theatrical cuts?
I don't know. J.J. Abrams said something about, I talked to Disney, and for various reasons, it's not a policy.
He said reasons I don't understand. He understands contracts.
Yeah.
That's what I don't get, because I figured it's got to be that at this point.
Well, my guess is it's not being released because it's being saved for money reasons, as in drop it again, sell it again,
in about
drop
6 to 8 years,
drop it on Blu-ray, drop it on 4K Blu-ray, and then release those to Disney Plus. And I assume, so in general, I assume that things that are not on Disney Plus are being held back for a reason, which is we need things to release to bump. Right. Whenever we feel like subs start to trickle off, bump it again, bump it again. So I assume that Disney's not stupid. They know that the market for selling physical media is really going to die in the very near future. So how can you do that? Well, if you released a completely remastered, all in 4K, original trilogy, if you released a mega edition of all of the movies, the Skywalker saga in 4K, we've remastered everything, all 9 movies. What if they you can watch whatever version of it you wanted? I mean, I'd buy it. I bought Star Wars. I don't know how many times I bought Star Wars, including the bootlegs I own. I don't know how many I have bought, but it's at least 6 or 7 times.
You have the laser discs.
I have bootlegs of the laser discs. Yes. They even have the laser disc menu. Like somebody just straight recorded it.
I heard that's like the highest quality of the original.
It is, and they're still not great. And if you have, when they re-released the DVDs, it was around the time Star Wars Battlefront 2 came out, because I remember I got them the same day. You could watch the unedited original trilogy, and there's scans from the Blu-ray, from the laser disc, and I mean it's better than the special edition,
right?
But it doesn't look better than the special edition. You can tell it's a crappy old print. But yeah, that is technically the highest quality original trilogy you can get. It beats VHS.
Right.
So if we don't go on to Christmas Stories, we're going to have to stop. So let's go on to Christmas Stories.
Let's do it.
Mike, why don't you start? Because you haven't talked in a while.
He's like been in the room.
Okay. He's lost the ability.
Yeah. I can start. I will make up for my lack of contribution on the Star Wars movie review. I wrote my own synopsis of what I chose as my favorite Christmas story. I put in a little bit more effort than I normally do for this type of favorite type segment. I purposely avoided 2 of my favorites because I thought maybe somebody was going to pick them. One was Starman number 27, the James Robinson run.
That's a good one.
That is a great one. And then it's basically, I'm not going to talk about it because that would be doing more than one. And then another favorite is it's from the original 100-page super spectacular Justice League of America, number 110, and it's the murder of Santa Claus. Another good story that involves the key
This is a shockingly
and the Phantom.
dark cover for
Yeah, it
for an
is. Yeah,
issue that old. My gosh.
Santa's face down in the snow, and I couldn't really do a
Hey,
true review
kids.
because I left these comics in Utah. I keep some of my treasured comics out there close to where I am, and so what I did have back here in Illinois was another favorite of mine, and that's going back to the Golden Age, Sensation Comics number 14. It features obviously Wonder Woman,
Freaking deep
but
dive.
oh yeah, I've read this entire 800+ page Wonder Woman Volume 1 or Wonder Woman in the Golden Age omnibus, and there's a lot of stuff that it's just hard to get through, but this was a great story. It's only 13 pages. Obviously, it's by William Moulton Marston and Harry Peters' art, but one thing that's unique is that the story is narrated from the perspective of a fir tree. So
it's like, ah!
Yes, a fir tree that eventually you'll see in the end as reference to Christmas and all that stuff. So the fir tree is actually named Abies balsamia, which is the genus name. I looked it up for a fir tree. Wonder Woman and Steve, they're near the Canadian border, tracking some escaped Nazis from Canada, and that were trying to, get into the United States. Anyway, Wonder Woman, well, actually Diana Prince and Steve split up to go track these guys down. Diana changes to her Wonder Woman garb, and while hiding her, of course, this is in the snow. I mean, this is if she wasn't superhuman, she'd be freezing to death. She changes to her Wonder Woman outfit, hides her civilian clothes under the branches of this fir tree. And this is all being narrated, remember, by the actual tree that's the focus of the book.
So this pervy tree is watching That's what you're telling me.
Well, yeah. So
well done for yourself, I guess. There,
I mean, the long story short is she discovers that the Nazis have a secret hideout where they're keeping the escaped prisoners. But she also comes across 2 lost children. And the backstory on these children, I mean, it kind of goes to a flashback. The children are lost in this snowstorm, and they're talking about how they had great Christmases in the past. And they actually find Wonder Woman's Diana Prince's clothes to keep them warm. So they start talking to this brother and sister, which are named Teddy and Babs Carter, and they're talking about how Christmases were great up until this past year when their family hired man was named Karl Natz. You'll see a lot of your stereotypical German names in here, Fritzes and all that stuff. Karl Natz tries to put the move on their mother, but the dad, I mean, literally right there under the mistletoe, the dad walks in. This is Jeb, and he looks like a lumberjack, and he not only slugs this Karl Natz fellow, he accuses his cheating wife of, cheating, and tells her, I'm taking you to your mother's, and I'm never going to see you again, and by the way, I'm keeping your kids away from you. So no
dark ass story.
Yeah, I know. This is what I've expected from a 40s Wonder Woman story.
But yeah, most of those stories are like set in weird, like fighting Mars, actually on the planet Mars and stuff. So anyway, the years pass, and the kids are still not allowed to visit their mother. They finally decide to sneak out of the house to deliver some gifts that they made for their mom. Anyway, this is when they comes back to current time, and they're lost in the snowstorm. Wonder Woman, they run into Wonder Woman. She saves them. It's your typical, you have your obligatory bondage scene where Wonder Woman volunteers to be tied up so she can sneak into the Nazi lair.
She's into it.
Anyway,
It's always the implication.
The end run here is that Steve Trevor enlists the help. You got to love Etta Candy's Holiday Girls. I don't know if you've ever read any of that Golden Age stuff, but they're basically a bunch of sorority gals that kick some booty now. They do. Anyway, they beat the Nazis, and Wonder Woman was able to reunite Jeb and Nan Carter. They reconcile. Jeb begs forgiveness, etc. And Wonder Woman takes the fir tree, transplants it into the Carter yard, and then the fir tree volunteers to give his top of the tree for the Carter family Christmas tree. And it was a really gem. It was a gem among a lot of strange stories in this omnibus.
I just want to point out that a story narrated by a pervy tree is your standout of these other ones are strange.
Don't sully that. I think it was a female tree. All right.
Hey, you're just making it racier for the 40s.
Yeah.
Well, the 40s had different storytelling. I mean, when you read the first Namor appearance, he's pulling people out of subs and letting them drown, and it's nothing.
Yeah.
You know, and they even say
Batman breaks that guy's neck.
Exactly.
Batman.
Yeah. Right. So it was different storytelling.
Yeah, for sure.
You got pre-code, so.
Yeah, it was. Again, I think everything's relative. So having read this entire omnibus, going, oh my gosh, another Dr. Psycho crazy story, and yet this was, right in the midst of it. So
overall, how do you like that omnibus?
Oh, for historical purposes, I think it's important. It was an important buy for me. I wouldn't buy Volume 2 probably because it'd be more of the same. Yeah. Without, Moulton Marston died in 1947, so.
Honestly, most of the Golden Age, if you get a little bit of Golden Age stuff, it goes a long way because it does. I mean, nobody intended for the same person to keep reading these books over and over.
Right.
No, even going into the Silver Age, they didn't. Yeah. So, but Scott, you're right. It's there weren't the constraints in the 40s that came about in the 50s, obviously. And to be honest, Wonder Woman was treated. The irony of the Wonder Woman character is Marston was intending to promote the strengths of women, but at the same time in a kinky way, which was his own personal thing, But once Bob Kanigher took over the line, it just became. I mean, I was reading some of those '60s.
Is that when it's like saving children's milk from Nazi poison?
That's when you have the mermaid boy and she's in love. I mean, it's so.
Well, it's like the romance comics.
Yeah, it's like a romance comic, and just like Lois Lane was treated, Diana was treated like the love-struck woman that needed to be saved, and she's the heroine.
She's like a super mom for a long time too. Yeah.
So that's it for me.
It is interesting when you read that Golden Age pre-code stuff that, I mean, I'm not like offended by it as a person now, but it is sometimes a little amazing to think of that it took so long for the code to exist, is all I'm saying. You think about the time in which these things were published and the market that was being targeted for them. You're like, I kind of can't believe EC lasted as long as it did, selling like headless woman covers and stuff to kids. It's a little surprising. I'm glad that they existed because we get to read them now, but it's a little surprising, honestly.
Yeah, they knew what they were doing too. With some of the girly girl books, they were targeting some of the soldiers overseas, and they were, your Phantom Ladies and stuff like that. The more of the horror stuff, I'm not sure. Yeah, it is interesting that it went as long as it did because you're like, wow,
15 years more or less of. This stuff would make it 15 days. This was what you were had on the. If this stuff were on the shelves at Walmart now, like ECs especially, but some of this stuff too, it would absolutely get objected to. Yep.
You want to go, Dan?
All right. So for mine, I'm looking at the DCU Infinite Holiday Special from 06. It's got a nice Howard Porter cover. I think this is around the time he was doing Trials of Shazam, so it's that sort of painterly look here to the cover. So, DC does these specials occasionally, and it's a lot of filler. They still are, but there's still usually one or two good stories in them. So, and again, this is around the time of Infinite Crisis. That's why it's the Infinite Holiday Special. So I'm going to go all the way to the back to the last story. Yes, Tyrone, there is a Santa Claus. Again, there's a lot of filler in this one, too, but this is kind of the standout story. This is by Kelly Puckett and Pete Woods. And a boy writes to the Daily Planet wanting to know if there's a real Santa Claus because they know the Daily Planet always tells the truth. And that's what his dad tells him. Everything except the part about the moon landing, according to his dad. So if you're reading this story, and again, it's a Christmas special. It's a standalone thing. There's some things that maybe don't stand out when you first read it. But first off, the kid has a copy of Action Comics here at his desk where he's writing the letter. But then it's really sort of a Silver Age version of the characters, and it's easy not to pick up on that first. That's what I was about to ask.
Is it written as a Silver Age story? Because that's what it looked like. Lois and Perry.
Superman decides he's going to play Santa to this kid, and they show him at the Fortress of Solitude with the giant key. He's making presents. He's throwing them in a sleigh. He's wearing a Santa suit, like with the S on it, but it's like a Santa Claus suit. He's flying the sleigh to the kid's house. And then Batman on a jetpack shows up and says, pathetic. He's like, you're Superman. You're a hero. You're going to tell everyone you're taking the night off to go tell this kid about Santa Claus. You know, and Superman's like, oh, man, you're right. You know, so he puts the sleigh down. He takes the suit off. He's like, you know what, though? I need to take him the presents. So he sneaks in a window of this house with, you know, hands full of presents to see Batman playing Santa, giving the kids presents by the Christmas tree, and giving Superman a wink. And the story ends with Superman decking Batman, knocking the fake Santa beard off his face while the kids are amazed. And the ending is an Elseworlds logo, letting you know this is not in continuity. But this last page I love, by Pete Woods, and this is my desktop every year at Christmas time.
This is a great panel.
So yeah,
and look for the continuation of this from Black Label. In
yeah, exactly. So, but it's just a fun short story, and you know, a lot of these specials they do are hit or miss. I mean, mostly misses, especially now that the average price of these things is $10.
Yeah.
You know, that's where
I didn't buy New Year's Evil, and I really wanted to because I love Christmas themed books like that.
Yeah.
And I was like, $10.
I picked it up, but I haven't read it yet.
I pick them up every time, and every time I think this wasn't worth $10. Was it?
Did you have an honorable mention?
My honorable mention was the Michelangelo Christmas Special by Mirage. I think this was originally just the Michelangelo one shot, and then they reprinted it later as the Christmas special.
When was that? Was that the early 90s?
Oh yeah.
Okay,
This is
I remember
this
that
is still
cover.
black and white Mirage, and this is like I'm a kid buying all the turtle stuff.
Yeah.
What's this? You know, but yeah, it's the TMNT Christmas Special, but it's still the black and white Zipatone. Yeah, this is December 1990.
Okay.
But I think it would have been printed a couple years earlier as just the Michelangelo one, because they did one shots of all the turtle characters.
Yeah, I remember that cover from when I was first getting into comics in junior high.
Yeah, I've read this several times over the years. Like, I bought this new when it was out.
It looks like it, too.
Yeah.
It looks like a well-loved comic
Yeah.
from your childhood.
All right. Well, I got DC Special Series number 21. This is actually a 10-page story out of that book. And I guess what's notable about this is I believe this is the first time that Frank Miller ever worked on Batman. Written by Denny O'Neil, called Wanted: Santa Claus, Dead or Alive. So basically, the premise is you got Batman.
Real quick, I just really want to hear a Bon Jovi Christmas version.
So the premise is you got Batman swinging through Gotham, and Gotham is so bad that someone has stolen the star out of a nativity scene. So that's how bad it is in Gotham. But he can't be bothered with that right now because he's on another case because you got to figure out why there's this boat that some criminal has at the dock that they're waiting for him to make a getaway. So he goes into a bar. He finds out that somebody's, they're getting ready to rob. I think it's a department store or whatever. And he learns that the such and such, and what's kind of funny at this point is that the guy's nickname is now Boomer, which in light of memes for 2019, Boomer is such a good name for the. You get the feeling that he's kind of a reformed, a reformed crook. He's taking jobs at the Salvation Army, and now he's playing Santa Claus for this department store. And what he's supposed to do is when he leaves the department store, he's supposed to leave a door open so that these guys can come in and rob the place. But he doesn't want to do it because he's trying to change his ways. He says, people have been so nice to me, I don't want to. So anyway, the guys that have the boat, they're going to make the getaway. Basically, they by gunpoint take him back and make him, ask to get let back in. Then they bust in. And then, of course, here comes Batman in to kind of save the day. And I'm trying to remember exactly. I reread it last night, and now, of course, that I'm on the spot. It's kind of not really remembering all the story parts exactly. But Boomer, I guess, tries to help Batman stop them from the robbery, and they go back out of the department store as part of the fight. And Batman can't exactly figure out where the bad guys got to. So suddenly, through the nativity scene where the star is no longer there, this bright light shines down. So Batman goes to the light, and that's where he finds, the bad guys. And then, of course, rescues Boomer, and then, of course, the star is once again gone. So that's kind of the story element, the Christmas story element to this story is the star from the nativity scene was stolen, but then there's the star, and then Batman, is looking up into the sky, and there's a star up in the sky, and then it's got a quote from Luke the Gospel of Luke, relating to the star. So it's kind of like this, it's a real throwaway story, but it's like people can be redeemed, I guess, is kind of the moral to that one. So
that's a good one. I have the what'd you say it was in DC Special Series?
DC Special Series number 21, and of course my version is in the complete Frank Miller Batman, which is this leather-bound book from, gosh, I don't know, early 90s.
I bought it from Dennis.
Yeah.
Yeah, same.
Yeah. So, and this when we talked about doing a Christmas story, this was the first one that popped in my mind.
Good one.
Yeah. I thought about doing X-Men 143, which is a Kitty Pryde Alone on Christmas Eve story.
It's the last John Byrne X-Men too, I think, right? Did he do that one? I thought it was
he did that one.
Yeah, I think it's the last one before he left to go do other stuff.
Really?
Yeah.
I thought he was on it for a little bit past that because I thought he made it through. I thought he was. I'll have to look it up. I don't remember.
When I had a complete run of Claremont and Byrne X-Men, that's where my run ended. I thought that was his last issue.
Okay, maybe it is
as the regular guy. I mean, maybe he did other ones later, but I thought that was his last issue.
I'm trying to when I'm picturing like issue 153 in my head, I feel like that has a Byrne cover. So.
Yeah, I'm just saying like the last one of him being the regular.
Oh, the regular. Okay, all right.
I'm sure he did other ones otherwhere.
But I didn't. So I was doing a little research on that one. I did not realize that Kitty Pryde, her appearance was based upon a young Sigourney Weaver.
Oh no, that makes a lot of sense.
And then he was actually concerned that they were going to get sued over that comic because it is basically just an alien storyline is how that goes at Christmas Eve. And then the other story I was thinking about, and I can't remember the issue number, I think it was like 387, but I think Dan had posted a picture of a Peter David Hulk story.
Right. Yep. Where he's fighting Santa on the cover.
Where he's fighting Santa, but it's Rhino who's playing Santa.
Yeah, he's working as a ball Santa, hiding the horn on his head with the Santa hat.
With the Santa hat, yeah. So and I thought that would have been a good one too, but I couldn't track that one down. So
I think I bought that at your show a couple years ago. Actually, is where I got my copy.
Yeah, that's probably where it came. That's why I don't have it anymore.
Yeah.
So. All right, are we done?
We're done.
I think so.
We're done. All right. So Matt, you taking us out?
Yeah, I mean, we'll be back again shortly for a previews cast, right? I think.
Yep.
Does previews come in next?
We'll probably record on the. We're scheduled to record on the 14th. So
that feels like a little ways away, doesn't it?
It's 3 weeks.
Yep.
So, but we could do it. We could do it a little earlier if we need to. So
we'll figure it out.
Yeah. No worries. All right, so we'll be back soon. Till then, happy holidays, everybody. Hope you enjoyed the screamy, ranty fanboy hot take
Christmas
edition.
Extravaganza.
Yep. Yeah, a little rage before Christmas, and then ending on a happy note.
To put you in the Christmas spirit.
A happy note. Yep. All right. Anybody any thoughts before we go?
I think that's it.
Dan, if they want to find you, where do they find you at?
Find me at Detective651 on Twitter and Instagram, and at my TeePublic store. I'm going to be retiring some designs at the end of the year, so if there's something you want to pick up, now's the time to do it.
Scott Reed, find me at burgcomics.com, burgcomics.com, and of course on Facebook and eBay and all the fun places.
Mike Atchison, if you really want to find me, you can go to Atch5 at Twitter.
I followed you the other day.
Oh boy, it's such a boring thing because there's nothing ever posted.
Nope.
I just consume.
That's what makes it a good Twitter feed.
But I do have a really good icon on there, so I think it's the JLA satellite.
Yeah, I think so.
But anyway, if you really need to get a hold of me, you can do it through the store or through any of these fellas. Merry Christmas.
And Matt at Wiki Copilot on everything. All right. Happy holidays. Merry Christmas, guys.
Golly, I gotta take notes now.